So our execution of the PIOSA process began by explaining what it was about. We sat down with our elders and we talked about what this is and why it's important. I think if you explain the why, that matters a great deal, particularly on the front end. So we explain the why this matters, why we want to increase in our effectiveness and our intentionality, and we got buy-in around the table. That was important. The next thing we did was send them the pillar document that they could then fill out on their own, and then submit that back to one person who would take and compile all of those answers together into one document. We then met again after all that was compiled, and we reviewed the results and began to have some fantastic conversations around that table, and have in meetings since then about what we discussed then. That was now some 7 months ago. And we have continued those conversations because, again, it asked the right questions. It asked questions that we may not have thought of, or questions that we wouldn't have dug that deep on. That was the value of the process for us, was going from the very beginning, understanding the why, going through the questions individually, and then coming back together as a team and evaluating what we had all said individually to see how we lined up. Are we aligned? Do we all agree? Or is there a vast difference in our opinions on where we are on a thing? That's important to know, particularly around a board table. For the most part, I believe there was alignment. There were a few, though, that surprised us, that we looked at and thought, okay, there's some disparity here. There's a divergence of opinion. Let's talk about that. And that was fertile ground for some great conversations. Our goal right now is to use the PIOSA every 6 months to evaluate at least one pillar, if not two, every 6 months, and say, hey, how are we doing on this? We say this is a value. We say this is something we want to do. We say we want to increase our effectiveness in utilizing the resources that are entrusted to us to accomplish the mission that we have in front of us. Are we doing that? The questions in the PIOSA help us to answer that question in a way that we've never been able to thus far.